Today I want to talk about not getting a reaction from the crowd, looking for a new computer, and taking your DJing to the next level with residencies. This is Share the Knowledge.
For the last 22 years, I've been rocking stages, playing in clubs, and having a lot of fun as a DJ and turntablist, and I've seen and learned a lot. Now it's time for me to share that knowledge by answering the questions that can help you become a better DJ. I'm djTLM, and this is Share the Knowledge.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to episode 7 of Share the Knowledge. I'm djTLM, and you're watching djTLMtv, or you tune into the podcast on soundcloud.com/djTLM, or you can get it on iTunes. And just want to plug the podcast for a minute. If you're walking down the street, or you're driving in a car, or you're doing your workout, and it's just an awkward position to be watching a video, go check out that podcast. It's the same info, just the audio. Now, in this show, I answer questions that you guys can send me on Twitter and Instagram at djTLM. Just add the hashtag Share the Knowledge, and I'll find those questions. Now, I hope everyone had a great Easter weekend. I pre-recorded my last episode so I could take some time off to be with the fam. We had a great time. We acted like tourists in our own city. And of course, now it's time to get back to work. I have a lot of questions here. I didn't even check the last questions. I saw a lot of new questions on Twitter and Instagram, but I already have too many questions for one episode right here. So let's get started right now. So the first question is from Nick, and I have this question in here for a specific reason. I'll let you know in a minute. Hey djTLM, I've practiced with Serato and Mixtrack Pro 2 for a couple of months before my computer broke, and I couldn't get a new one because no good deals were presenting themselves. Now that I've found one, should I take the computer or wait for a new one for more money? Also, now the second question is about getting speakers and a recommendation. I'm cutting it off right there. Shout out to you though, Nick. 14 years old, into DJing, love that. But here's the thing, I got a lot of questions that can't be answered just by the way they're being asked, because you're asking me if you should get the computer that you found now or wait and get one for more money. Now, there's no way for me to answer a question like that because I have no idea what computer you found now, so I can't compare it to anything. Now, the reason why you're probably doubting is because maybe that computer that you found right now is not really up to par. I don't know. Otherwise, I wouldn't understand why you would have doubts. But here's the thing and the tip I want to give each and every one of you. If you're buying a computer for your DJ software or for your production software, go to the manufacturer's website of the software that you are using or that you want to start using. So Serato, Tractor, Virtual DJ, whatever. Go to the website and make sure you check out their minimum specifications that are required for your Windows computer or your Mac, so that you know what you need to have in there at least. And try to go a step above if possible, but then you know what your computer needs to have in order to work with that software. That's the best tip I can give you guys. Check out the manufacturer's website. That info can help a lot. Now, if you want to ask me questions where you need a suggestion, I need more information. But I'm trying to avoid questions like this because a lot of times it's going to take a lot of back and forth before I can actually give you a good answer. And that's why I'm working on a new solution, a new service that will be presented very soon that can help a lot of you out if you're looking to buy a new computer, new software, new controller, all of that. All right? And when it comes to speakers, check out the comment section of episode 2, I believe, because there were a lot of great suggestions when it comes to buying speakers. And I am doing a special on speakers in the near future, so stay tuned for that as well. Then we have DJ Vincredible from Las Vegas. He's currently running Windows 7 and everything works with Serato DJ and the Pioneer DDJ SX2. I keep receiving messages that I can upgrade to Windows 10 for free. My question is, if I upgrade to Windows 10, will there be a risk that Serato or my DJ SX2 will encounter any problems? I'm going to return to what I was just talking about. Again, you can find a lot of this info online, and make sure you check out the manufacturer's website. Is Serato supporting Windows 10? And I believe that they are now. Every time there's a new upgrade when it comes to either Windows or iOS, there's always some issues at first, because what the software manufacturer, if it's Tractor or Serato or whoever has to do, they have to wait for that new update to come. So if there's a new Windows, they might get some info, but I believe that they don't get all the info until it's actually released. and when it's released, then they can see what changes they might have to make in order to make everything work again. Same with Apple. I believe with El Capitan, there were also issues, and they're solved now, I think. Not sure, because I'm running that old MacBook, so I'm not even at that current OS X yet. But you need to just check out those sites, check out the official Serato forum, because there's definitely answers over there. And that should be able to help you out, because they always have updates coming. So if you watch the manufacturer's website and forum, that will give you all the info you need. But I have to give you props and commend you for not just upgrading to the next possible option, because a lot of people do, and they get the newest version and then they find out that their software is not working anymore. So always do a little bit of research before you get a new operating system, because that can save you a bunch of trouble. All right, I have a question from JMB, and this is a question he's sure every DJ had to think of at least for a few times. What if the music you're playing does not fit or work for the club/party you're playing at? Of course, a DJ should always bring a few different genres, but what if the dance floor is totally empty? And how do I know if the genre or my style of playing is the problem? All right, I've been in this position. A lot of you probably have been in this position. And the first thing that I always do is just check the crowd. And I've been at parties where I'm either dealing with a crowd that just doesn't like to react. And at first you're like, okay, I'm throwing in a couple of tracks, different genres, nice tracks, at least nice in the sense that I know that they're popular, and I'm not getting the reaction I'm used to. If I see that with a couple of different genres, totally different genres, that already gives me a pretty good idea of what I'm dealing with, and I know that most likely I'm not to blame. Because I'm not there playing one genre and within that genre one style. No, I make sure that I'm playing a variety of tracks. And if I don't get a reaction with any of those styles, then it's not me. And most of the times I will check with the bouncers or the manager afterwards. And most of the times they will tell me, like, that's just how they are here. They're having a great time, they just don't show it. It's pretty awkward. It's not cool if you're a DJ, you want that crowd to react. But in certain places where I've been, that was just the norm. People don't go all out and they don't give reactions. So as soon as you see that, okay, I've tried a couple different styles, they're not reacting, then it's really not your fault. If I'm booked to play at a certain party and they're expecting a certain type of music, if you book me to play a hip hop and R&B event and the crowd is not moving to hip hop and R&B at all, that's not my fault. Now, of course, I want to do the best job I can do, and I don't like to leave a crowd hanging and be like, what's this DJ doing? But if this is a hip hop and R&B party, and I'm booked to play hip hop and R&B, and for whatever reason, the club is filled with people who do not like hip hop and R&B, that's on them. And I will have enough self-confidence to know that I'm not just all of a sudden going to grab pop because they want to hear top 40 pop music or whatever. No, that's not what I play. That's not what I'm booked for. That's not what that party is about. Unless the promoter of the party actually approaches me and would tell me like, hey, I don't know what happened, but we're dealing with a full house of people who like this and this and that music. Do you have that? Could you play that? Now, if that music fits into what I like to play, cool, and I can switch. But I won't just do that because I don't see people moving if there's a certain concept and I've been booked to play a certain concept. If the dance floor is empty, I've had that happen a couple of times too. And most of the times it was just that there were not enough people in the venue. And people can get scared sometimes if there's not a lot of people in the venue. They're scared to be the first to walk on that dance floor. Even in those situations, I'm not going to panic. If it's early in the evening and there's not a lot of people, I'm not just going to start playing the craziest hits just to get those 10 people on the dance floor when potentially the rest of the crowd could still be coming in. Or if I can tell, like, okay, there's nothing going to happen here, there's no more people coming, I'll just rock that party as if there's 10,000 people standing there. And even if those 10 people are not moving because they're scared or whatever, I'm just going to give it my all. And I've done that a couple of times. And afterwards, I would hear from like the staff, the peeps, the bar, the doorman. They were all positive and like, yo man, you rocked it. We're sorry for you that there weren't no people, but at least I leave a good impression with the people from the venue. So for the next time, they will know, like, okay, this dude knows how to rock the party. There were no people last time, but he is ill. If there's no people there and I'm just like, okay, there's no one here, so it doesn't matter what I do, don't forget that the people that are working there are seeing you. And if you want to get booked again, it would be good to leave a good impression on those people at least. So I hope that answers what you were talking about. That's my experience. And I'm going to make that the question of the day. What do you do when you can't get a reaction out of the crowd or when the dance floor is empty? What do you do when there's no crowd response and your style of music is not working for whatever reason? I want to see what you guys have to say about that. The next question is from DJ Dylan D-Town. What are you doing when the neighbors make remarks every day concerning loud music levels? I play music considering permitted hours and local regulations, but it seems that the neighbors are not satisfied even in that case. What are you supposed to do? In every country, there might be different permitted hours for you to actually make noise, quote unquote noise, louder sounds. We have that here too. It's between whatever and whatever hour. I don't know, it's like probably 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning till 8 at night or something like that. That might be the case. But if I would have a neighbor next door and during those permitted hours every day, he or she would be playing loud music, loud enough for me to hear it in here, disturbing my, not peace and quiet, but just my living area, that will be a problem. And I would always look at life like that. That's why we do not do that in this house. In my previous house, where we lived for 8 years, I was doing a lot of DJing in the house as well. More than here, actually, because right now I'm doing a lot of different stuff. But I was doing a lot of music in the house. In those 8 years, I have had no complaints. And I know for a fact that in those 8 years, maybe 4 or 5 times, I blasted music. And that was maybe for like half an hour or an hour during a really good time of day when I knew most people were out to work and all of that. And if I had knowledge that I had a neighbor like 2 doors next to us with a small baby or whatever, then I'm definitely even being more careful. But it also depends on what type of house you live in. If you live in a house that has good isolation, then that gives you more room to have some volume. I've lived in an old house when I was young, like in the center of Amsterdam, near the canals, and those were like wooden houses. And we had high ceilings, but I could hear every step of my old little neighbor lady that was walking upstairs, and I could hear her flush her toilet, and I could hear what she was playing on TV, and her TV was not loud. So if you're living in a house like that, every sound is going to be heard, and you have to be considerate. So what you can do, and I already saw someone react in the comments right there, is look at a way to make a nice little booth with some insulation where you can keep the sound in there. That's going to help you out. And I don't know how you're living and how loud you're playing that music, but in my case, if I'm DJing at home, I don't need to have that music blasting the way it's blasting in a club. All I need is to hear it. And to hear it, it doesn't have to be that loud. It also depends on the position of your speakers. Maybe place the speakers closer to your DJ set so you can lower the volume. The closer they are, the more you can lower the volume and still have good audio. So either that or isolation, do whatever you can to keep the sound in-house, but be considerate. Even if there are laws and permitted hours, it doesn't mean that you should be blasting music during that entire time. That's not going to help, but you wouldn't want your neighbors to do that to you either. So that's that. All right, here we have Curtis from Trinidad, a beginner, and he would like to get into turntables. I've experience with CDJs and controllers. I would like to get your take on the Audio Technica turntables, and would that do the job? Keeping it short and simple, I have no clue. I've never used the Audio Technica turntables. They never crossed my path. I'm not even sure if they sold them here. I think they do now, or you can get them online. But I never saw them in stores, didn't know any DJs who had them. I've seen stories online, and I've heard pretty good stories, but I would have no clue. So look online for reviews. And that's also my tip for people out there. If you're looking for or looking at a certain piece of equipment, try to find forums where people are talking about it, try to find reviews, and that can help you out. Look at respectable DJ sites. Also on YouTube, you have sites that do a lot of good reviews, DJ Booth, Digital DJ Tips. They also do a lot of reviews. See if they have a review when it comes to that turntable in this case, and that can help you out. But in this case, I have no clue. The next question is from the DJ360. Is it better to use the crossfader or vertical faders to mix music? Sometimes I have volume matching issues at the point of mixing with the crossfader. Which method do you use? Now that's a great question. In my case, I definitely use the crossfader most of the time because that's just my favorite fader to use because I'm doing a lot of stuff with scratching. Also, when I'm throwing in a new track, even for a transition, even if it's not just bringing it in on the one, but making a real transition, a lot of times I'm still scratching it in there and I'm using that crossfader. But it all depends on the mixer and definitely depends on the crossfader settings because you could have volume matching issues. Now, in my case, the crossfader has the curve set to the sharpest because I like to use it for scratching, and having that curve at the sharpest position is best. What that means is if my fader is all the way to the left, you only hear the left deck, you don't hear the right deck. As soon as I move it a little bit to the right, you have full volume on that right deck as well. So you hear both decks at full volume. And I can move that fader all the way to almost the other side, still have full volume on both decks until I move it all the way to the right, and then you don't hear the left deck anymore. So in that case, there's no fading. It's just full volume, no volume. That's all. That's what I work with, and that works fine for me because I fixed the rest with my EQ. And if I do want one of those decks to be a little lower in volume or higher, most of the times I will work with the trim or gain button to do that. If you have your crossfader in the fade setting, just not sharp, what it does is it opens up slowly, and only when you get to the middle will you have full volume on that deck. But I've also had mixers where the full volume on that deck wasn't even in the middle. You would only have full volume when you would have it all the way to the other side. And while you're moving to the other side, you're losing volume on that side. So I feel that it's harder to control the volume of both decks if that crossfader is in more of a fade setting. And if I wanted to have full control and really play with the volume on both decks, I would use the up faders to make that happen and not the crossfader. But because in my transitions, most of the time I like to have full volume on both, I will just use the crossfader or play with that trim gain button. And in some occasions, if I really wanted to come in a lot less loud, I will just have the up fader down a lot, use the crossfader, and once it's in the mix, then I'll put it back up again. So I hope that helps you out, and I hope you understand what I mean. If not, holla back. Now here's a question that I answered before, but it got cut from this episode, so I'm gonna do it now. This is from Jairus, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And the question is, how do you know when to turn on certain tracks depending on the crowd? Now, your answer is in your question because it is depending on the crowd. You watch the crowd, you see how they react to what you're playing, and if you know your music and you know what music you brought to play, that should give you an idea of what song to play next. So if I'm playing for a couple of hours, I might be warming up, start with a nice smooth vibe, then I start to build it up, add a little more energy, and if I'm at a certain level and I see how they're reacting to tracks, that already tells me, all right, if they like this, then they will probably like this, that, and that. That's if you know your music. So it all depends on what you bring, and like you said, depending on the crowd. So you watch their reaction, and that gives you a perfect idea of what you can do. And sometimes I experiment as well. I might have the crowd going and I'm going through my tracks and I see a certain track that I definitely feel and I know it has a certain energy, but I'm not even sure if the crowd is going to feel it. If you're confident enough, you can just try that as well. I try that. And what I do when I'm experimenting is make sure that I always have a next track ready that will work for sure. So in that case, I'm talking about a real hit for that audience. If I know that they like hip hop, R&B, or I see that it's a crowd that really likes trap, I make sure I have a certain track ready that's popular. And before I play that track, I try a track that I want to experiment with, try that out. If it doesn't have the right reaction, I make a quick transition to that hit to keep that crowd there. But it's always good to experiment on certain occasions, but watch your crowd, and that will give you a good idea of which direction you should be taking it with your music. But knowing your music, knowing what you have in your crates is essential to make that decision. If you're playing freestyle, if you're going by a track list, then you're not looking and you're just playing your track list. But that's why I prefer to play freestyle, because you're really going off the crowd and your own intuition. I hope that helps you out. Here we have a quick question from DJ Creative Mind. What would be the best way to quick delete a mass number of songs in your library? I use Serato and I've been looking for a while because I have a lot of throwaway files I never use when I DJ. This is a tricky one because this all depends on how you're able to find those tracks. Because if all those tracks are labeled a certain way, then it would be easy to just use the search function, find those tracks and delete them. But if these are tracks that you call throwaway tracks because you know you're not going to play them, but they don't have certain tags in there that really set them apart from the rest, then I don't know if there's a possibility to mass delete. You would have to select all those tracks from your collection, and after you select them, delete them. So I'm not sure if there's a real solution for your problem unless all those tracks have a certain characteristic that makes them recognizable, so you can either use a smart crate and fill in certain BPM and year and whatever to get all those tracks in there, or use the search function because you know you have a comment, a tag in there that sets them apart. But if it's just random tracks from different genres in different crates within Serato, I don't believe that there's an option to do that. So one more question from DJ Franchise 21. What have you found that took your DJing to the next level? Right now, I DJ at clubs, but no residency. All right, so there's a couple of things I wonder about when I see that question. If you're talking about taking your DJing to the next level, that could mean a lot of things. That could be skill-wise or just enhancing your brand name. But I'm going to go with the second part where it says that you're playing in clubs, but you have no residency. So I assume that you mean that you want to take it to the next level and be a resident DJ at different spots. Now, residencies are a tricky thing in my experience. I've had a lot of residencies. Right now, I have very few. And the ones that I have aren't for weekly or monthly gigs, but they're more like twice a year. I'm there every time, but it's twice a year or just 4 times a year. But in the past, I had a couple of residencies. Some were like every month, some were like twice a month. But that all depends on who you're connected to, I'm afraid to say. That's what I see most of the times, that a lot of the guys that are residents at a party organize a party, have other DJs be residents at their party, and then they get to be resident at that other DJ's party. So it's a little bit of give and take, and I understand that. And that's cool that you can help each other out. But if you're not in a situation where you're helping them out, then most likely they're not going to help you out. Then you have a lot of clubs that already have resident DJs, so it's pretty hard to just come in there, especially because a lot of DJs nowadays are playing for low prices. So you would have to either go below their price, which I'm definitely not an advocate of. I do not like people lowballing and going under prices. Plus, I would not go below the prices that a lot of these guys are asking now, because it is ridiculous. And I would make no money at all. And if I want to DJ without making any money, I have a DJ set right here and I'll have my fun right here. So residencies are pretty hard, and I'm going to go back to what I say in a lot of my videos: organizing your own events. If you organize your own event, even if it's small, you can be the resident at that event if it's possible for you to find a spot where you get to do stuff every month or even every week. But that's a sure shot way to get a residency if you just organize it yourself. And beyond that, if you have the option to maybe connect with some DJs, get them to play at your party so you can be a resident at their party, that could help. But there's different ways. Right now, I've not been that active looking for residency. So maybe if you're out there watching right now and this is all your thing, leave a comment in the comment section, join the conversation, share that knowledge, because you might be able to help other DJs out that are looking for residency. But in my experience, it's been a lot of politics in there also, but it's too much to talk about, really. Guys, that's it for now. I'm going to stop it right here because this is already the longest episode to date. If you want to ask me questions, go to Twitter and Instagram at djTLM at the hashtag share the knowledge, or check me on Snapchat, djTLM. You can also ask me questions there. Just send a text. And if you like this video, if you like this info, like the video, but most of all, share this video. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, share it, share the podcast, and make sure you leave a comment and join that conversation in the comment section down below. Now, any info, all the links are in the description so you can find me everywhere, and I will be back very soon with the next episode. Peace.